Thank you for the chance to express my personal view for whom I believe is best for the community I love, particularly in regard to growth management. I note I am not here on behalf of the municipality as a mayor. The greatest threats to our community's livable Oakville official plan are the growth management promises made in winning the Liberal Party leadership by Bonnie Crombie, and she has not disavowed those promises either. Her three most damaging promises are unlimited height near transit stations, 4 units and 4 stories as of right on every lot on every street, and 6 to 11-story mid-rises near bus routes. In contrast, Stephen Crawford and Doug Ford have the opposite position on Bonnie Crombie's 3 threats to our livable Oakville official plan. Minister Crawford and Premier Ford support height limits in our Midtown transit station area, and the Ford government refused to make 4 units and 4 stories as of right on every street, and Minister Crawford and Premier Ford are not promising mid-rises on every bus route. I'm also personally grateful to Minister Crawford and Premier Ford for other crucial decisions, and perhaps these 3 the most. Minister Crawford and Premier Ford listened when we fought amalgamation, which they stopped. Minister Crawford and Premier Ford heard us when we fought to save Glen Abbey, which they saved. Minister Crawford and Premier Ford stepped up with Canada to help save the Ford Oakville Assembly Plant, and not just once. Doug Ford and Stephen Crawford have proved they care about our community and have acted to protect us again and again. That's why I personally believe they have earned our community's and my personal support again.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you to the team who's with us today. It's brilliant to be with you. And thank you so much, Mayor, for your support. It is awesome to be joined by Premier Doug Ford to talk about our plan to protect Ontario, Ontario families, Ontario jobs, and the future of our province. Because with high interest rates and the Liberal carbon tax, we know that life is getting more expensive, not least because the carbon tax is actually going to increase again on April 1st of this year, a tax that will add 20 cents a litre at the pumps, making everything more expensive, getting your kids to school, getting to work, groceries, vacations. But we're here today because we know affordable and reliable energy is critical to keeping life within reach for all of us. When energy is affordable, businesses can grow. Good-paying jobs stay right here in Ontario, and families can keep more of their hard-earned money. That's why we're delivering a plan that keeps costs down while securing the energy we need to power new homes, to grow our communities and our economy. This is a plan that ensures energy is a tool for prosperity, not a burden on families and on job creators. That's important, perhaps now more than ever, because just yesterday, President Trump signaled that he would impose new tariffs on critical industries in Ontario, impacting thousands of Ontario workers. And so we must redouble our efforts to make clear to the U.S. administration that the true threat is communist China, not democratic Canada. And that's work that can start in our energy sector. Today's announcement is proof of that. It's a plan that strengthens our energy system, enhances our energy security, all while keeping money in your pockets where it belongs. And that's the vision of our Premier, a man who has been leading in the nation and stepping up at a critical time to protect our families, protect our future, protect Ontario. Please welcome Ontario's Premier, the next Premier of this province, Doug Ford. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Well, first of all, thank you so much, and I want to thank Sean and John and the great team at BWXT for hosting us today. Thank you, and I know there's a whole bunch of you in the back room. We'll say hello to everyone in a minute. I'm just so thrilled to have your support, and thank you for your partnership. I'm thrilled to be back in beautiful Oakville alongside your Ontario PC candidate, Stephen Crawford. Now, let me tell you about Stephen Crawford. He's done incredible things for this community, no matter if it's making sure we see economic growth. He's done great things for the ministry that he represents on mining. That's our future, the critical minerals, and making sure we're going to continue having a loud voice at Queen's Park to keep our streets safe. And Stephen Lecce, thank you, Stephen. I call Stephen the Energizer Bunny, because ever since he's been the Minister of Energy, things have been going just full steam, and thank you. And the more you do, the more work we have for our friends at BWXT. Well, folks, last night we got some news. President Trump said he'll impose 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel today. The target of his latest threat is unclear. We're still learning more about their scope and impact, but what we know for certain, this is the next 4 years. I've been saying it. We're going to face this for 4 years. Shifting goalposts constantly and constant chaos, all designed to hurt our economy and undermine our workers. There's more. In an interview, he told a reporter he's serious about Canada becoming the 51st state. He said annexing Canada is a real thing. Those are his words. I know it's hard to hear. I know you want to, make sure and hope it's all bluster and all talk, but this threat is real, and this threat will be real for the next 4 years. Canada, Ontario, we're in a battle for the future of our economy, for the future of our province and our country. When it's required, we need to stand tall and stand proud. We need to speak loudly to make it clear Canada is not for sale. But when it makes sense for us in the U.S., we need to engage and align on shared priorities. I haven't been shy to disagree with President Trump when he's threatened Canada, when he's threatened Ontario jobs. I've pushed back, and I'll continue to do so with everything I've got. At the same time, we have to act when it's the right thing to do in protecting our border, making our communities more safe. That's the definition of the right thing to do. This past weekend, I was in Niagara, talking about the progress we've made to protect our border and urging the Trudeau government to do more. We need the federal government to pass strict and severe mandatory minimum sentences for any thug convicted of trafficking fentanyl or other dangerous drugs. The province and the federal government need to work together to get to the root cause, auditing banks, credit unions, and any financial institution that may be financing gangs or cartels. And we need the Trudeau government to get on with naming the fentanyl czar. It's been 7 days, it's been a whole week. This can't be the speed we operate at. Prime Minister Trudeau, I'm urging you, name the fentanyl czar today, name them now. As we stare down the threat of tariffs and growing economic risks from south of the border, risk that will last through the next 4 years. I want to reiterate what I've said before, what I've said from the very beginning. Canada and the United States are the strongest when we work together. For decades, we've been in each other's largest trading partners, creating jobs, growing businesses, and putting bigger paychecks into workers' pockets. On both sides of the border, that's what we need to make sure we stay focused on every single day. Working together, we can make Canada and the U.S. the richest, most successful, safest, most secure two countries on the planet. We have to stay united. And we have to stay focused on the real threat to our shared economic success, China. China is playing by its own rules, is flooding markets, hijacking supply chains, undercutting our workers, and threatening our industries. I'll tell you right now, Ontario isn't going to sit back and let it happen. We will always stand up for our workers. We will do whatever it takes to protect Ontario, their families, the workers, the businesses, and communities. If Canada and the U.S. want to win, if we want to protect our workers and their paychecks, we need to fight together, not each other. I call it Fortress Amcan, a renewed strategic alliance between Canada and the United States that is a beacon of stability, security, long-term economic growth. The cornerstone of Fortress AMCAN is an integrated energy and electricity grid that powers economic growth on both sides of the border. As Canada and the United States take on China, and as Ontario builds out and significantly expands our electricity system with billions of dollars in investments in generation, transmission, and storage, including the first small modular reactor in the G7. We're leading the world when it comes to nuclear energy, and it's because of the people here at BWXT. We need to keep our grid safe. We need to keep it secure. A re-elected PC government will ban Chinese parts from all future energy procurement. We will ban Chinese state-owned enterprises from buying or taking equity in any Ontario government-funded energy and critical mineral projects or any major infrastructure assets. By building out our grid, by securing our grid, Ontario is uniquely positioned to power economic growth and fuel job creation on both sides of the border. Ontario is leading the charge. More exports, more investment, more growth. That's what we need to do as PCs. We get things done. The only way we can achieve any of this is if the US and Canada work together. If we stay focused on the real threats that undermined our shared economic success, that undermined our workers. That's why tomorrow I'm heading to Washington to take my message directly to US lawmakers and American business leaders. I'm going to tell them exactly what I'm telling you. Ontario is taking action to secure our border and delivering results. Ontario is ready to power economic growth on both sides of the border with a safe and secure grid. And I'm going to tell them we're ready to do whatever it takes to protect Ontario. I want to thank you, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
We will now take questions from the media. Media present can line up behind me and ask their questions through the microphone. As a friendly reminder, the format is one question and one follow-up. Please state your name and your outlet before your question. First question.
Hi, Mr. Ford.
Hi.
Laura Stone, Globe and Mail.
Hi, Laura.
Hey, so on the tariffs with Mr. Trump's latest threats, can you explain what Ontario has done to prepare for this? Have you talked to any of your federal counterpart, provincial counterpart, industry? We heard these comments last night, but this is presumably happening today, so what have you done so far?
Yeah, and we're in constant communication with the federal government along with all my colleagues, all the premiers that are heading down to Washington, D.C. tomorrow with us. We have a strong plan. I got off the phone with the President and CEO of Stelco, President and CEO of DeFasco. I was there yesterday. I literally just got off the phone before I walked out here. We're going to make sure that, first of all, let's find out what he's proposing at 1 o'clock before we react. But once we see what is proposed, and if it's damaging, we're going to react hard and we're going to react fast. We're going to make sure we protect the people in those sectors. We're going to make sure we protect their families and the businesses in those sectors.
Thank you. And on your DC trip, can you tell us what kind of tangible outcome you're looking for from this? I mean, you've criticized the federal government last week for taking meetings with politicians and talking to each other. Are you not going down there to take meetings with politicians and talk to each other? And so what's different about your trip?
Well, I'll tell you what we're doing is we're going down there. We're jam-packed with meetings. We're building relationships. Folks, this is all about building a relationship, making sure we communicate. You know, we all know, the U.S. knows that Canada needs the U.S., but what we're going to communicate is everything the U.S. needs off of Canada, everything the U.S. needs off of Ontario, and how important the trading partner of Ontario and Canada is. We're the #1 export destination in the world. Canada is, and Ontario, if they were a standalone country, would be the 3rd largest trading partner in the world to the U.S. So it works both ways. We want to build an AMCAN fortress. That's what we want to do, a stronger relationship.
Hi there, Lorenda Redikoff with CBC News.
Hi, Lorenda.
In the face of these potential tariffs, all the actions that you've talked about, strengthening the border, fentanyl, things to make Donald Trump happy, essentially. Is there a point to all of this when it sounds like there's a different goal that he has in mind?
Well, first of all, I agree with you. He changes the goalpost every single day. You know, first he tells us we have 30 days, a little reprieve, and he wakes up in the morning and all of a sudden the game changes. So I can't, predict what he's going to say from day to day. But what I can tell you, we're going to make sure that we protect our businesses. We're going to communicate with the people down there, business leaders. We're going to communicate with the senators and the Congress women and men down there and really give a strong point why they shouldn't be doing this. We should be looking opposite than what they're thinking or the president's thinking. Because I keep telling everyone, I talk to endless Congress people, talk to endless governors and senators. No one's agreeing. They aren't saying Canada's the problem up north. They're saying China's the problem. We got to correct it. And we need to support our U.S. allies and friends.
Your party has a new ad out. Part of it is attacking Bonnie Crombie, the Liberal leader, saying, while drug dealers flooded her city with fentanyl. Is there any proof that fentanyl is any worse in Mississauga than anywhere else?
Well, first of all, we're just going by communication with our great friends that protect Peel region. We're seeing more cars being stolen. We're seeing more drugs on the street, more gangs on the street. And the message to the Prime Minister, enough's enough. No more bleeding hearts with these criminals. We need to throw them in jail. And what happens is we have, not all, but some, really weak justices of the peace, really weak judges, that they kick the door and put the gun to people's heads, and they should be in jail for 10 years. But no, they go to court, and they're out the next day with a slap on the wrist. What sort of justice system are we running in this country? You put a gun to someone's head and terrorize communities, terrorize neighborhoods, and they get out on bail, and guess what happens? They go out and they commit the same crime that night. And then guess what? They get arrested, they go in front of the same judge. And the same judge, gives a slap on the backside and said, okay, you go out and do it again. Not once on bail, not twice, not 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times. We've heard 8 times out on bail. This is the craziest system I've ever heard. The federal government controls the criminal code. Mandatory sentencing. You get caught with a gun, you're going to the big house. That's it. Done.
Good morning, Sinead Dougal with the Trillium. Hi. Shifting gears a bit to healthcare, Ontario Health data shows that since 2020 and up until at least the end of August last year, at least 10% of patients with highly aggressive cancers were waiting more than double the province's recommended time for a surgery. This was all during the time that your government was not only in power, but also had a majority. The Canadian Cancer Society has said that any delay in cancer care can mean worse outcomes for patients. What do you have to say for these numbers? And if re-elected, what do you plan to do about it?
Well, our government has put more money into cancer research and supporting people with cancer than any other government. That's close to my heart and probably close to everyone's heart in this place. There's no one in this building that hasn't been affected. Our family, my brother died of cancer, my mother died of cancer, my father died of cancer. And people could say that in this room. We're pouring money into research. We're pouring money in there to support people. We've increased health by $33 billion. We're building new supports for hospitals by putting $50 billion and building 50 sites around the province, adding more medical seats and medical schools. So I could go on for the next half an hour about this, but guess what? You can't do this unless you have a strong economy. If you don't protect the economy, you can't put the investments of $33 billion more into healthcare, which we've done, the $50 billion more into hospitals, if you don't have an economy. So we have to protect the people's jobs here until they can pay their taxes. And by the way, I've never increased taxes since I've been elected, never will. But they're going to pay taxes that will help for healthcare, help for education, help for social services, and most importantly, help the infrastructure to build the highways and the roads and the transit that we need.
And just to follow up, will you guarantee today that if re-elected, you will do whatever is needed to ensure that every Ontarian needing a surgery gets that surgery within the recommended time frame?
Well, what my promise is, we're going to have better health care. We're going to put more money into the system. We're going to have more doctors because we've put more medical seats in universities, unlike the previous government that cut medical seats, that fired nurses, that didn't invest in our hospitals. We're doing it, and we're going to make sure we put every single penny we can to have a better healthcare system. And also connect the people, even though we're leading the country in this, connecting people to family physicians, it's not good enough. I believe in continuous improvement. That's why we've hired Dr. Jane Philpott, and we're investing $1.8 billion to make sure every single person, no matter every infant, every child, every adult, every senior, is connected to a family doc.
Hi there, Mirna Jukic for Radio Canada. You've been clear that if Donald Trump goes forward with the tariffs on March 1st, you won't hesitate to pull American alcohol off the shelves and ban American businesses from applying for government contracts. Would you consider these measures even for if he goes forward with more targeted tariffs or partial tariffs like the one he says he's going to put on aluminum and steel?
So let me answer that this way. Let's first see what he's going to do. Because he could say he's doing it this morning, and at 1 o'clock he changes his mind. So let's first see what he's going to do. But what I will promise you, I will use every tool in our toolbox, and we have a lot of tools here in Ontario. We're a very powerful economic powerhouse in North America, that they have a response, an appropriate response, a hard response, and it will wake up our friends south of the border. The Americans will wake up real quick. We aren't going to roll over. There's one thing that President Trump has underestimated: the will of the Canadian people, the will of our government, how proud the people are here in Ontario and in Canada, the resilience, and that we're fighters. I'll tell you one thing: we're no Mexico, we're no Colombia, we're no Panama, we're Canada. And if it comes our way, which a fight we never started, a fight that we don't want, but when someone, gives you a pop in the nose, they're going to get that pop twice as hard back. I'll tell you that.
And if I can go back to healthcare, this morning the Nursing Association was asking for a ratio, mandated legislated ratio of nurses to patients, a bill that didn't pass through the legislature. Why do the PC not support this, and what else do you tend to do to address nursing shortages? Well,
I'll tell you what the PC party does support. Just think of these numbers, folks. Before we took office, they were firing nurses. Since we've taken office, we've registered 100,000 new nurses. I'm going to repeat that. 100,000 new nurses are registered here in Ontario, new ones. There's 30,000 nursing students spread right across our provinces in our colleges and universities. We're paying for their education now that no other government has ever done, a Learn and Stay program. So we'll take care of their education, which is very expensive, but well worth it. And once they graduate, if we need more nurses here in Oakville or other areas, then they work in the jurisdiction that is needed. So we're going to continue investing in our healthcare system, investing in our great nurses, nurse practitioners, and doctors and frontline healthcare workers. That's what we're going to do.
This will be the last question.
Good morning, Liam Casey with the Canadian Press. Sir, whales are dropping like flies at Marineland. Last week, a young beluga died there, making it 18 belugas that have died there since 2019 under your watch. Your government inspectors have been there more than 200 times, but the last captive whales in Canada just keep dying. What do all these deaths say about what your government is or isn't doing there?
Well, first of all, it's terrible of any animal dying in those whales. You know, it'd be great just to let them free, but what I understand, if you let them free in the ocean, they're done. They're dead. So we're going to make sure that they still take care of these whales. I couldn't believe, actually, maybe you have the number, how many whales they actually have over there. It's unprecedented.
31.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And 31 in captivity? But now, what I'm told by whatever, the whale experts, I said, hey, let's be able to transfer them. Is that an idea? No, they won't survive. So we're going to have to make the best of it. But we'll do everything we can to support it. What can I say? It's unfortunate.
So the park itself is up for sale, and they're talking about kind of transitioning to new ownership. It's really unclear what's happening, what will happen to the animals there. If you win the election, what would you do differently to help the animals at Marineland?
Well, it's a private sector business, right? They don't interfere in private sector stuff. We'll see what it sells for, what they plan on putting there, but you got to take care of the animals. I'm an animal lover, so I think everyone loves animals. But anyways, what we have to do, if you're talking about Niagara, revitalize Niagara, make sure it's a great destination, better than what it is, and attract millions and millions of more visitors. They have 11 million people that visit every year. So
That concludes our press conference. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Who's gonna fight for you if